So, was there any hesitancy in taking on a religious character like that with such significance to it?
No, that was the exciting bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very busy year. Man's dad the year before, and been on. I mean, I was the fittest I'd ever been. I worked with a guy called Mark Dwight. You ever heard of him? There was this company for a while called Jim Jones, and they were considered to be the hardest asses in the physical training business. You know, it was very, very difficult to become a Jim Jones trainer and stuff. And Mark was the guy that trained the trainers, and he got assigned to me. Oh my God, the things that he put me through, but it was all great, and we remain strong friends now because we did some shit together. You know, like that kind of hate shit. You know?
Yeah.
Trenches or whatever. And so the following year, I played the mayor of New York in a thing called Broken City with Mark Wahlberg, which is it's one of those performances that I just haven't seen, but I quite rate that. Beautiful cast, so it's 3 or 4 months on that, and then straight into Noah. So I was exhausted before I started. You know, I'd had 3 really big jobs in a row, and then to drop into that, which was there was a lot of physical stuff on that. Darren shots a lot, so those big wide shots, you're still doing the same action as you're doing when you're close in, so you're sort of working, you know, pretty hard. But I think if anything, you know, I was really excited by the fact of being able to delve into that. I would have preferred, what I'm getting at is a little more time, you know, because it's the quiet contemplation that really fills you up for the thing that you're about to do. And when you're coming straight off one film set, pretty much on another, it's not quite enough. You know, go talk to people who've got a perspective. I would have probably wanted to spend a little bit more time with some Jewish scholars, because there's a lot of, you know, writings adjunct to the Torah about Noah. To get to the bottom of that, but I really didn't have the time, so I just had to sort of plow into it with what I had, which is you know, beautiful 2-volume Old Testament and New Testament that Darren got me. So that was the beginning of the research. There's not really much else you can do because you can't go and look up, you know, old photos or anything.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So you're pretty much stepping into that world, so trying to understand Darren's perspective on it, what he was trying to show, that, you know, there had been a big civilization already. So there's a civilization prior to Noah, so you're already talking about, you know, a post. And it's all, you know, human behavior and what have you. There's a sequence in the film that some people miss where like Noah is looking into these people who are all the sort of ones who've allowed themselves to give in to their base desires or what have you. And within the group of people, he sees a man who looks like a rat, you know, gnawing away at the body of something, possibly another human, and it's him. So he sees himself on the other side of it. So Darren had a lot of cool things going on, a lot of great ideas, and, you know, outside of America was a huge hit, a massive hit in places like Russia or Brazil or whatever. But I don't think it's really considered to be a hit because it didn't hit the box office in the United States. But I don't know, it's 300 or 400.
It's bizarre that it is about the climate. It's bizarre that that's become a weird political point. That it's so ideologically connected that people either oppose it or go with it, with no information other than the fact that my team believes this.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
The fucking environment, the very thing we live in, that's a political angle is so strange.
It is so strange because it's, you know, there's a whole lot of different things that I think not necessarily on the money, but the bottom line that the burning of fossil fuels is having an effect on our air quality
what is the thing that's driving us the most, and what is the thing that we can do to mitigate that.
Yeah. So I think things like, you know, the cows fighting, I think that's misinformation that just gets thrown out there so to sort of spread the blame or whatever. Because, you know, we are told over and over again there are so many more animals on this planet at a certain point. Okay, so if we've killed off, you know, 80% or whatever of the animals that existed, what about their farts?
Yeah.
How is a dinosaur fart compared to a cow fart?
Rain, and we're keeping them in pens, and then all the pig shit, and all that stuff gets into the water. It's very different than a regenerative farm, an actual real farm where cows are grazing, and then their manure fertilizes the land, and it actually sequesters carbon. A real regenerative farm is carbon neutral.
Yeah,
that's not the issue.
I run 220 Angus on my place.
That's how Jeremy Clarkson is running his farm. Regenerative.
I sort of learned that all of those factory farming processes are just the absolute wrong thing to do. You know, I mean, when I first had land and cattle, I used to love getting up at the dawn, you know, in the darkness, county hat on, starting getting out and, you know, herding and all that sort of stuff. And then over time, started to realize that so we developed this system at my place where we had a single laneway and all the other paddocks cattle can go onto that laneway. So the paddock can be, you know, 100 acres or whatever, but you can muster one man, soft voice, handful of grain. Just open the gate, call out a couple of times, they come towards you. You can get every cow in that laneway, and you get up behind them, walk behind them, walk them straight to the yards. And we've taken all the fun out of it, but it's just a lot more, it's, you know, safer, easier, sensible, and we don't use, you know, hose pipes, we don't use stop pipes anymore, we don't muster ATVs, you know, it's either on foot or horseback, and we still use work dogs, but the cows don't get upset by the work dogs, they don't get freaked out by the slaves, they get freaked out by an engine. Pastoral care is because at the end of the day, 100% true, the steak tastes better. If you don't adrenalize the cattle, if you don't abuse them, you know, it's just better. It's like more tasteful. It doesn't have, you know, really adrenalized meat. It gets a very gamey quality, you know, and you know, the steak that we serve are fun because I only do all this. I didn't operate it as a business. I started to operate it as a business for a while there, but kind of found out that everybody in the butchery game is similar to working with people that sell used cars, and they're only looking for the story. They don't really care about the animal, and you know, I do. I was like, you know, I was, you know, laughed at for many years in the valley that I live in because of the way I came from, but I can't do it any other way. It's got to be.
It's smart. It's less carbon. It's a better situation for them.
Yeah, they just feel healthier. So I went fully organic at one point, right? It took us like 5 or 7 years to get the certification. And then I would walk amongst the cattle, and because we couldn't, you know, douse them because they were organic cattle, you know, things like, you know, buffalo fly and other little things were just all over them. And I thought, man, that can't be good either. You know, it's like having a kid, you know, and never giving the kid Panadol if it gets a fever. You know, by the time that kid's 14, it hasn't, you know, it hasn't overcome it. It's like the biggest, best, strongest. This little weedy little bloke in the corner, you know, he spent most of his life sick because he never got the medicine to make it easier for his body to recover. You know, and that kind of was happening to the cows. They lost a lot of weight and they just looked in distress. So I keep. But I do topical treatments for the cattle, so they don't have to deal with ticks and buffalo fly and things like that. Where my place is, it's still considered coastal, so we get all of the bitey things that as I say, they don't get adrenalised through their life. So when we do cull them, the meat is a profound experience.
Do you sell it online? How does someone get it?
No, I don't sell it.
You don't sell it at all?
Well,
Just give it away?
occasionally there's one butcher near me that I trust. He's really into what he does, and he will ask if he can have a couple of pieces, and I'll let him have it. We do sell to some neighbours that we know are, but we sell to them for less than it costs to produce. So, and way less than they would be spending if they went to the supermarket. But basically, I have the cows to feed my family, so my kids are very snobby about steak because they've grown up with, the best you can. Well, anyway, the most humane way to produce an animal, for sure.
How did you get started doing this? Like, what was? It seems like you're a very busy person to be starting regenerative farms.
Well, it comes from when I was getting a little bit of success. I could see things coming along, and I sort of had a choice. I only had enough money to either buy a small apartment in the city, right, or some land. And my mum and dad weren't in a great place, and I hadn't really spent a lot of time with them. And I didn't really go home very much. And so what I did is I decided instead of buying an apartment in the city, I'd buy 100 acres in the bush, and my mum and dad could go and live there, and basically they could start fresh and have a sort of a new experience. I bought 100 acres initially, but I think I got like 1,700 acres or something like that. But once I had the land, then I started feeling like, well, you've got to do something with it. It can't just be 100 acres of a garden, and there's also that thing too of like, you're walking into farmland, you want to see a horse, you want to see a cow, you want to have something. So over time, I started, I experimented by holding some cattle for a friend, and I got used to what you had to do and stuff like that. They were big, long-horn beasts, and they were quite difficult to deal with, so that made me little calves down in the yards. They were being picked up the next day, and at this stage I was living in a caravan because I hadn't started building or anything on the property. And so I go to bed, and at about 2 o'clock in the morning I woke up because it's raining, and I'm trying to get back to sleep, but all I can think of is these 20 little calves down in the yards, and how the floor of the yards will turn into muck, and these guys will be picked up the next day, and they'll spend the whole night slipping over and sort of covering each other in shit, and they'll be in great distress and blah blah. So about 2:30 got up, got dressed, went down to the yards, trying to figure out how to get them out of the rain. I had a shed down there, but it was about 30 meters away from the edge of the yards, and I looked around the shed and had nothing to do, so I saw these big long pieces of wood, and then what I had to do was I had to get them running towards me, and I had to redirect them along that fence line so they would go inside the shed. Now while this is happening, it's pissing down rain, absolutely like tropical rain, and it took me about, I don't know, 40 minutes, something like that. It's deep in the middle of the night to fix the fence, and then I got it running, and they're coming towards me. I could see one was about to jink away, so I had to sort of dance along with one. But it was amazing. I stopped that one little bloke, and he rejoined the rest of them, and then they just went like clockwork, just so smooth, straight into the shed, right? So then in the shed, I laid out some hay and stuff, and I left a little light on. You tell stories like that to farmers, and they think you're an absolute idiot.
I think
It's just for me, the next day when the truck came to pick them up, they were all happy and healthy and, not covered in brown shit. So I'm not really a farmer, but I got land.
you kind of are. Though. I mean, that sounds like at least a practicing farmer. I mean, you're actually did it.
Yeah, well, we still do. We still turn the meat out. But when I looked into it in terms of a business, you have to really have about 25,000 head to make it a business. That covers you for when sometimes the price of meat goes down or whatever, or the costs around culling go up. And I just didn't want to do it that way. I didn't want to have to be responsible in my heart for 25,000 living creatures when I couldn't be absolutely certain they're all being treated well.
Right.
So, and I think that's one of the big mistakes that we've made going into this thing of farms getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because
the humanity of it all just gets so distorted when you have these factory farming operations, and you're not even allowed. We have ag gag laws in America, so you're not even allowed to film there because the conditions are sometimes so horrific that it damages the business.
We give grain to our cattle because there is a nice texture and stuff that comes to the meat beyond being grass-fed, but we never put them into a feeding pen situation. And I think that's also part of the best part of the balance, because they're still walking around on their home range. This is where they're used to being, and then here's a pile of grain over here, so they supplement their grass with the grain as opposed to just being fed grain purely to put on size. So what we turn off men, and I think it's partly to do with the fact that they stay active, and we get a natural fat ratio, which is the bottom end gut. What we're giving you, we give you a steak is like an absolute protein pill. It's a hit.
It's better for you too, physically.
I think so.
It is. Yeah. It's been proven. The nutritional balance of grass-fed animals is just much better.
Right.
They're not supposed to live entirely on grain. It's just like humans are not
But I
supposed
think
to.
again that balance thing, it's like their life on grass, and then just before you cull them, you give them a little bit of grain. It finishes them off. It gets them sort of ready to be consumed. But you still have the same benefits of the grass-fed because you've never stopped that.
Right.
But you have the thing of them being fit because you've never made them like stand still in a pen.
Right. It's got to be a cool feeling too to consume only the animals at your place that you've actually raised. Like every step of the way.
We used to when we occasionally will have a fresh guest that's never been there. You're gonna love Buttercup. She was such just an Australian sense of humour. We just put somebody off their meal just as they're about to eat.
Yeah.
But I did used to name them, but I stopped naming because that was an extra level of pain.
Yeah.
And plus, when you've got 20, they can all have a name. When you have 220, it's a bit difficult.
Well, you don't want to be naming something you're going to eat. It's just too weird. It's weird enough when people are so disconnected from where their food comes from already. Just the concept of killing it themselves seems abhorrent, but the concept of living without meat seems terrible too. Just we're completely disconnected from the act
Of how it gets to you.
Yeah, we just go and see it wrapped up nicely at the butcher shop, and